Hello, I'm Will Sampson from CabinetMaker and FDM Magazine. We're in the shop today to talk about cutting tapers on the table saw. Now, it used to be I used a jig like this particular jig, to cut tapers on for like tapered legs, things on a table saw. It's pretty simple. It has a hinge up here and a little mechanism here to adjust the angle, and a little stop and a pin to grab your workpiece. And you would simply use it by adjusting it to the angle that you wanted and riding along here. But it has some disadvantages. There's nothing to secure the piece other than this little pin down here and the stop there, and so you're holding it, your hands are awful close to the blade. It's kind of awkward even with a push stick. So it had some disadvantages, and there wasn't any real precision in adjusting the taper or anything like that. Rockler has now come out with an alternative. This is their new taper jig and straight ripping jig, and we'll talk about that a little later. It's a nice setup that has some secure workpiece holding features. There's friction strips here. There are these little guys that will hold down the piece. You adjust it by moving this fence. There's a nice handle so that you can grab it, and it runs in the miter slot. When you get it, you actually cut off this edge here so that you have zero clearance between your blade. And the adjustment, there are rules on the top here and the bottom that you apply. And hang on, let me get my saw ready here. And there are also, you may not be able to see it very clearly in the video, there are some little tick marks on the top and the bottom, and those represent 1 degree each. So, for example, right now, if I were to set this at the 4th tick mark there, and then say the 6th tick mark, the difference is 2, so there'd be 2 degrees of taper. So that's one way of setting, or you can set it just by the inch marks on the bottom and the top. There's also a little metal tab down here to catch the end, much like the little block on the old-fashioned jig that I talked about previously. So what you do is get your workpiece and set the taper. Let's see, there we go. Like this. And set it for whatever setting you want. Tighten that down. Tighten these guys down. You got to be careful to make sure that these don't interfere with the blade. We'll put our eyes and ears on. Nice little wedge-shaped piece that came off there. And that's pretty much it. Now, there is another feature of this jig that is very handy that has nothing to do with tapers, which is if you have an odd shaped piece of wood that, in this case, this is a highly figured piece of spalted maple. I don't know if you can see there's some ribbon figure in it here, and this is a nice little piece of wood that might be good for a special project. But I could get a lot of waste, and how would I get this dimension to flat? I might strike a line across here and then cut it with the bandsaw, which would give me a rough cut, and then I'd have to join it. I could try and join it, but it's awkward to work with. This device allows us another alternative for getting that first straight cut on here. So what we do is we adjust the fence backwards, and we can just line this guy up to a place on here that works to get an edge. And we can use the hold downs. Hold it down securely. Now I'm going to use the miter gauge. For a larger board, you could actually take off the bar here and run it against your regular fence on your saw. But I'm just going to use the miter gauge setup. We're all set here. So there we got a really nice straight flat cut. So from there then we can go into our regular using the fence on the saw, or joining and getting a nice face joint on there or whatever. But that's a really handy extra feature. The jig with everything you see here runs, I believe, about $65. Great alternative to consider. That's what we've got for today. Thanks for watching.